Right, this next bit is one of the hardest parts to actually do. It's the Panier Tanks, or battery compartments, as it's going to be on an electric version of the bike. So what I've done is I've drifted around the internet and I've found as many photographs and stills I can steal from videos and stuff, and I've basically tried to work out what I need to be doing. Now, the top edge of these fuel tanks is 17 centimeters. Then I've got the total length of this being 23 centimeters from the top to the bottom. That's at the back edge of the tank. That's on the angled side. You see, these tanks are not a regular shape. If you look at the picture there, they've got approximately a straight side towards the engine coming down, so that's right angles from the top, but they have this angled section at the front. Now what I'm doing here is I've drawn out on steel plate a plan to work to. Don't know whether you can see this in the video, hopefully you can. This camera's starting to get a little bit old. I've got burn marks on the lens and stuff, so you're going to have to put up with that. Now you can see from a front view of the bike, the tanks are pretty much the same depth in terms of from the bike frame to there at the top, and from the bike frame to the outer edge at the bottom. The difference is the bike frame seems to be wider at the base than it is at the top on the real one. As to whether or not it's exactly like that on mine is another matter. So then you have this angled top to them. It's probably about 35 to 40 degrees. Now I've basically I've not copied the angles off here. I should really do, but I've worked out from my rough measuring what I believe the angle should be, and working out to what how the battery is going to fit inside. So here's my battery, my 16 ampere hour 24 volt battery. I'm keeping the tanks at the moment to what I believe they are, and this battery has to sit inside here, inside the body. Now bearing in mind the actual tank is upside down the way I'm drawing it at the moment, so it'll look more like that if I was to swing the camera around. Yeah, so you get the idea. That's the bottom of the tank. This is the top of the tank. And the tank, I'm actually making the casing of the tank 9 centimeters from the front to the back edge, 9 centimeters. Then at these angles, the back edge, when I measure it on a real one, this is one I managed to find in a shop, and well, yes, I took some photographs so you could see exactly how it should look. So I managed to take some measurements, 10 centimeters on this side and 11 centimeters on that side. But to make life easy for myself, what I'm doing is I'm actually making it I think 11 centimeters on both sides. So what I've done here is, first of all, I've come in from the side of my plate at fair distance, and I've measured off 17 centimeters along that bottom edge. Then I've created a center point on it, which is 8.5, I think. Yeah. Yeah, 8.5 centimeters. I've projected a line straight up through the center of my tank. So this is center with reference to the top here. So I'm effectively drawing a line down right through the center of the tank. Then of course, because the tank is narrower at the bottom end, it comes down to, can't really see on this picture very clearly, but it's 9 centimeters on the front face of the tank at the bottom end. So that is down here, is 9 centimeters. Then I've got a depth here between right, let's go back a stage. Right, so we've got this top edge, so we know that is 9. If it was from the side, you know, if there was a straight depth to it, it's 9 centimeters. But because it's cut on an angle, projected on an angle, this edge here is going to be longer than 9. So it actually comes out at, I've got 11 centimeters. Now you're also going to say here, hang on, that's 12. The reason I have got 12 is because this very last piece down here is going to be a fold over section, which is going to be folded inside of the rear of the tank, and it might even have wire inside the fold, so it's got wired folded edge. Probably won't do that due to the hassle of doing it, but it's going to be folded inside. So basically I'm adding 1 centimeter on all the edges around the edge of the back finishing edge of the tank to fold the metal in. So everywhere where I've got 11 centimeters becomes 12 centimeters. So I've gone up 11 here, and then I have a distance of 15.8 centimeters between the bottom and the top of the tank. That is if you look at this front edge here. If you're looking at the front of the tank, what did I say? It's 15.7 or 15.8. We'll call it 15.8. So it's 15.8. Now also you'll obviously notice this tank at the corners is extremely rounded, which is a bit of an issue when it comes to folding metal. It's something I've not experimented with before, and this is going to be a first for me. Now, but getting back to our measurements, so we've got 15.8 from there to there. Then we have a distance of 10 centimeters at the bottom end here, because the bottom end is far flatter. In fact, it's 9 centimeters with an added fold, if you remember. See, measuring a 9, and then the bottom edge is a folded area. There's some correction marks I've made to this which aren't erased very well, which are going to make the drawing of this a little bit misty. Now, the next thing I've done, this has all been done very simply, using a plastic rule and a plastic whatchamacallit, what do you call these? My memory's going since I did this 30 odd years ago, 40 years ago in school. So I've basically got a right angle here to measure off my line. So basically I projected a right angle off from the side of the body here. So let's go back a stage. So I'm projecting right angles off here, off on this straight line. Now this is basically right angles to the edge here. This side is right angles because this here is the straight side of the fuel tank. Yes, thinking about this all upside down, yeah, and this here is the angled side of the fuel tank. So that is the 15.8. Center is 15.8. This measurement across here is 13 centimeters. Yeah, 13. Then when we come to this bottom edge here, this is actually 9 centimeters across here. So basically you need to draw this so that it's with reference to the straight side of the tank. So that means you have 2.5 centimeters to one side of the center line, and you have 6.5 centimeters to the other side of the center line. Yeah, so when we get to the bottom of the tank, we measure across like so, and we have 13 centimeters. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making the sides of the tank at the back 2 centimeters wider than it is at the front of the tank. So if that's so it's 2 centimeters each side, so it's 4 centimeters in total. So you get, we're going from 17 centimeters to 13 centimeters. Yeah, so I'm doing the same at the bottom end of the tank, and this gives me a regular angle from the base of the tank down here or up here to the top of the tank, which is up here. Right, you follow? So it's got the same angle, and I'm going to try and bend this with a curve to it all. So in order to make this work out, I am adding some folding areas of 1 centimeter folding area to the sides of all my, where would normally be my shut lines. So the reality is this line here, there, which is drawn from this 13 centimeter line going across down to this 17 centimeter line, right? Then we've got the fold down here, which is the fold for the inside the tank. Then we have an extra piece. This is a fold flap, which is going to be inside of the tank and folded down behind the sides of the tank. So right, little detail, this side of the tank here is the angled one. So in order to draw the lines out and project this side out, you obviously need to use your triangle there and put that against it and project the line out at an angle. And I've actually made them 9 centimeters. I'm hoping this works out. They probably should be slightly more than 9, but I'll worry about that when it comes to it. Right, so it's 9 centimeters plus the 1 centimeter fold area. So me having that 1 centimeter fold area gives me a tolerance of metal to fold over. If this should be more than 9 when it comes to the finished job, then I can steal a little bit out of the fold area on the edge, which is running down here. So we then have to add more metal on at the top here for the angled top of the tank. There we go. Yeah, so we need to add metal back. So I've calculated this piece. So this is on the angle side. Now, this works out for me at 6.4 centimeters coming out. So the total side length on this from the base there is 16.2. So that 16.2 should also be 16.2 here, which it is 16.2. Yeah. So we've got 16.2 there. Then we've got this piece here that is measuring to the inner part, right? Comes out to about 11.3 there. Well, we'll call it 11.4. Right, so we've got this side of the tank over here. Right, now this is the straight side of the tank. If I measure from the top edge there down here, we come out to 22 centimeters. Yeah, 22 centimeters. Then we've got a folded section adding on here, and that line should go all the way up to the top here. I'm going to have to darken this line here, it's a bit faint. Now, once I've drawn all of that, I've then realised I need to add folding areas, as I've just been talking about, because this tank is so curvy. Now, I haven't got enough cardboard to draw this on cardboard and make a cardboard template. But what I did have, I have enough cardboard to work out how the top will look. So I've copied these measurements onto this piece of cardboard. It's a piece of cardboard that came out of a shirt a package, so it wasn't big enough. Now, I'm trying to do this with one hand, but this strip here, see this very last piece on here where I'm rubbing my finger, that is the fold over area where it's going to be folded in behind the side. Hang on, like so. So you get that? And that's going to be welded, possibly on the inside. It might have drill holes done in it and then plug welded. I may even run a weld along that very top edge with the welder set to a very low current so that I don't blow holes in it. But because it's going to be near double thickness, I hopefully will get away with it. So I'll basically be able to run a weld and then grind it back down and hopefully get a nice smooth profile. Now I'm trying to hold this all in one piece. Yeah, so basically you get the idea how I want the tank edges to roll over and be rounded. And this is going to be quite an experiment for me to get this to work. But from my experiment in the cardboard, adding a 1 centimeter fold area to be welded into a seam behind the sides, it seems to work. So where I'm doing this is the top end of your tank now. You can see the shape of it now. So I've got a fold here, I've got a fold on this side. But I'm not adding folds in on the sides of the tank, side projections. So when I come to the bottom of the tank here, I've also added a 1 centimeter fold area there and there. So these are for the weld. So I've now drawn out my two templates. So basically one's going to be left tank, one's going to be right tank. I'm going to make them exactly the same, just mirror image. So I'm going to fold one inwards towards the lines, and I'm going to fold one outwards away from the lines. So I've just quickly ran round this with the tin snips and a rough outline to snip it out. Now I've got the bulk of this thing, and now snipping off all the fine details, as you can see along these edges here. So I should have this in a state where I can start folding it very shortly. I'm just using standard tin snips. These happen to be made by Eclipse, but other brands will do. That's my sheep playing swing ball with their hay net. Hours of fun, isn't it, girls? Nah, hey? Anyway, back to the important stuff. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm knocking my camera around. I've cut out the template, and then I've got to start working out the order that I do the folds. So the first order of folding I reckon I need to do is the weld flaps on the top and the bottom ends. So I've done the bottom one. As you can see, that's a small end. There's the side of the tank showing. So I'm folding them in just about 30 to 45 degrees, something rough. I'm going to do the same up here. Then I think I'm probably going to fold the top edge, and then the sides, and then the base. I think that's probably it. And to aid me doing this, I'm basically just got a block of 4x4 timber, which is left over from when I built the roof on this building, and I'm just approximately lining it up by eye along the edge here, and I'm just giving it a little tap. And you know, it's steel. If I cock it up, I can turn it over and knock it back the other way until I get it pretty much where I want it. So this is just like working with a piece of cardboard, except it's obviously stiffer, you know. So there you go. So I'm just working around with this stuff and having a play around with it, and we'll see what it does. So it'd be nice if I had a big factory and a few hundred Chinese or Indians working, making these all day long. That'd be great fun, wouldn't it? But I don't, and I don't have machine tools. I just have my hands, my eyes, and a bit of good luck with any luck. Right, so what I could do here is I could stick this in some jaws between some metal, but the beauty of this tank is the corners of the tank are not precise, neat bends, so everything has got to be very crudely folded with a curve to it. So in order to do that, I've got to just use the most basic of hand tools, which of course are your hands. The hands are the most basic hand tools you have. So folding that like so, and then we'll do one of these sides here. It's all by eye. Like so. Yeah, see, we're getting this gradual gentle curves to this stuff. Nice rolled over curves. Let's have a go at this side. See how this is starting to come into shape now? Yeah. So we'll start working on this with a hammer a little bit in the corners. If necessary, you get a chisel on this and tap a corner in a touch. Like so. And that corner there, that's going to want a little bit of attention in a similar sort of way. Hopefully this is all coming out on the camera. I've say I've never made a box with rough corners to it before, so this is a first for me. So let's get this end in a little bit more, like so, and then we'll work on this side there. And we're starting to see a result coming here. Hey you two, you're not supposed to pee in here. So what I could do is I could probably, yeah, persuade that a little bit with a hammer. We could probably put some mole grips on this edge here. I think what I'll do is we'll take the wood out, we'll stick that in the jaws. Let's just flip this lens. We'll stick this in the jaws like so. Like that. And we'll just work this edge over a little bit. Until we get to a position where we can stick some bulldog clips on, vice grips, whatever you want to call them, depending on what part of the world you live in. Right, so we've got that like that. Tap that like that. Now what I can do is that I can take a little bit of the paint off on this surface and run a MIG welder on there, or just tack weld it in 2 or 3 points, hold basic shape together. Then I'll start working on the other 3 corners. Okay. Don't know whether this is going to conduct through the paintwork. I'll tell you what. Let's put the mole grips up there. Nah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to leave it on the jaws of the vice and see if we've got any conductivity. There's a bit. Now I need to put a bit more juice into that. not getting good a good melt. That's much nicer. Yeah. Let's have a move of these strips. Clean a little bit of paint away. Try the grips back on again. Right. Yeah, that'll do. Once I grind that back and then run over the welds and clean it all up a bit more, that'll look pretty good. So as I say, I'm going to work around, do all three corners, pretty much the same as that, and then you can have a look at what it looks like. Right, that's not too bad. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, so I should probably finish it off with the likes of a flap disc, or in fact just run tile over it and get it nice and rounded. You can see it's not taking very long to make this tank. You know, I give it a bit of a skim and a little bit of metallic filler or something, just a slight amount over it with a finger, and it'll be good once. Well, it'll be good for painting. Not a lot of work. What I do need to do, you can see there's my basic shape coming out. It's not too bad really. You can see it's got these nice sort of bulbous sides to it, but you can just play around with this in your hands and get it right. So you can see the inside has worked out okay. I might basically go over this and run a tack weld down the inside as well as belt and braces, so that I know the thing is not going to pop apart at the corners. Then I'm going to be tapping these edges over probably very similar way to what I did before, just using a block of wood, tapping it along. To be honest, you can even just get a large pair of pliers. Where are they? You can start all this off just with a large pair of pliers, folding it neatly along the rim and then working backwards. You know, don't fold it all in one point because you stretch the metal. You've got to work along the rim backwards and forwards. But yeah, you can see there's my welds. You know, they're lumpy welds, but you know, they're okay. But once ground back, not bad. So I'm going to tidy up the inside, run some welding down there, and then fix it all up. Okay, so once... Shut up, Bo! Right, so once these are beaten, welded, thumped about a bit, ground, they should look pretty much like that. You can see on the inside edge I've folded the edges over as I said I was going to do, and I've also welded them internally. So it's welded on the outside, ground and filed back, and welded down on the inside. So there's all the that's the shape of it. So that's going to basically hang on the side of the frame like that. Now, in order to do that, the plan is I'm going to have a flat bar welded on, going down here. The bottom end is going to have a hinge bolted or welded to it, and that hinge is going to be bolted into the bottom of this case. So basically, the pannier tank will fold down like that. Yeah? Now up at the top end, I'm going to bend the flat bar outwards, down on an angle, and it's going to have a nut welded on the back, or depending on how thick the flat bar is, it'll just be threaded, tapped. But I think it's probably going to be thin flat bar, so I'm best to weld a nice, say, M6 or M8 nut on the back of the flat bar. So that's going to do that. Now, the other thing obviously you need to do on this is these little brass caps on the tops of the tank. So basically on the right hand tank it has one fitting. Now there's loads of different tanks with lots of different variations out there on exactly how these caps look. So because there's so many variations, I've decided I'm going to do the left hand tank with two brass caps and the right hand tank with one. Now some of these are recessed, some aren't. Some of the tanks, the copied tanks you get from India, have just got steel, what looks like, I don't know, plumbing fittings welded in, which are sticking out. But so there's so many variations. It could be that the different models that came from the factory during the 40s had different variations in the tank design. I don't know. So the simplest idea I've come up with is I've got one of these 22mm, as it shows there, plumbing T-pieces, and I'm going to saw each one of these three pieces off with a hacksaw, cut it through there, there. Then I'm going to I'm going to solder, lead solder onto the tops of the tank. So I'm going to solder two on this tank up on the top here, and one on the other tank, which is down here. Yeah, so you can see the two tanks are mirror images. Yeah, so it's one on that tank, approximately there, and then two fitted on there. And these caps you can get to cap them off they will be the caps I will be putting on. These came from Screwfix here in the UK, and the 3 of them came to £6 for this cap, and this was from a general shop, DIY store in the street, little Indian man shop, and this was I think either £2.99 or £1.99 on its own. So I'm going to discard these, throw them into my bits piles, and chop it all up. Okay. Okay, so this is the tank filler tops. Basically, I've just ran the angle grinder over, take the paint off on the mild steel. I've stuck a little dab of flux on this Laco flux paste. I can't remember using this before, but obviously I must have done. So I'm just going to have a go and see if I can tin, basically lead, solder cover the tops. Now I'm going to go for using my small propane torch rather than the large one, and see how I get on with this. I might, in fact, start off just using some electrical solder, because it's got quite a low melting point, and it's also got its own flux in there. I've also got an electric, an Antex soldering iron plugged in there on the bench. Yeah, this is flowing quite well. So basically I use the Antex and push it round to make sure I've got good coverage on the area where I want to actually mount my discs. Might put a little bit more paste on this. Solder. Now I've got a bit of an angle on where it's mounted in the vise, so I'm just trying to basically push the solder out over a large enough area. I want to try and get these in decent sort of spots as well. Get the two. This is the side with two nozzles on it. So I'm just thinking I want to bring it a little bit further down the casing. Probably around about there. Now, what I want to do next is I'll put a little dab of flux on the top of that. Don't want to put too much on though. Right. Let's see what I can do with this. I'll put a little bit of heat in it. I don't want the solder to run all over the thread if I can help it. I just want the bare minimum of solder to tin the surface of this brass. So I'm just putting a little bit on it. See, people tell you you can't use electrical solder for soldering steel, but as you can see, you can. Now what I have forgotten to do is get my bloody needle nose pliers handy to one side. Let's have a little look, see where I'm running out of space to put things. Right, put it on my chair. Right, get needle noses. Right, one pair of needle nose pliers. Right, heat up the solder again there. In fact, I reckon I'll probably be able to just plonk that down and sweat this together. That's just popped, and I can see a nice flow of solder right round the insides of that, so that's perfectly adequate. But just for the hell of it, I'm just going to build a little bit extra up in there with my electrical solder and make sure that it's really nicely done. Right, that's that one sorted. Okay, now for the other side. Probably should have tinned this side first. See how this is looking in the screen. Zoom in like that. Right, I should have done this side probably before I stuck that on there, in case it causes them to move about. But there we go, so we've got lots of lovely solder on there. And let's use the electrical soldering iron to push it around a little bit. Make sure it's all keyed into the surface of the steel. Little dab more paste on the top there. So there's a bit of an angle on this where I've got it sat in the vise, so the solder's tended to migrate away down the bottom, but not so bad. Right, so then we've got our other brass piece to go on there. So put the soldering iron down again, go back to my electrical solder, get a little bit of heat in this. In fact, put a little dab of paste on it to double, to help give it some extra help. Right. Just putting some little blobs of solder around the edges. Right, that's pretty good. Okay, so we got our needle noses. We give it a quick flip over. Try and slide that into position where I think it looks quite nice, approximately there. And we're going to put some heat into it again. And straight away, I've seen the lead is flowing around the inside, the solder I should say, and that is joined. So there you go. That's one side of a can done. Turn the gas off, and I'll let you have a little look inside there so you can see how the solder is looking. Let's zoom out. Yeah, so you get that. See how the solder has flown nicely around the inside, and there's not too much solder around the base, so looks pretty good. That'll clean up quite nicely with a little say a little brass wire brush or something like that. Then I'll be able to start hanging these cans on. Okay, so once the where's that screwdriver? I had the screwdriver kicking around somewhere here. Yeah, so once they're soldered on, I've then managed to mount the two tanks on. If I take this little M6 screw out of here using my left hand, right, pop that out, drop that in there. So basically I've used a strap hinge, a gate hinge, and cut the end down a little bit so it fits inside, and yeah, so basically that's it. So the battery is going to sit inside here with some packing, and I'm probably going to put some aluminium plating on here, sort of the same shape as this aperture, the back of the tank. So basically when this closes up, the battery and packing will be nice and tightly packed in. So I'll put an aluminium plate, and I'll have a hole going through with a rubber grommet on it for the power cables to come through. But yeah, so I'm getting to a position where I can start doing some of the finer work on this. I've still got to do obviously the foot pegs, which have got to fold down from here somewhere around about there, so they've got to be sorted out. Let's see if I can get this screw back in. So this is what the pannier tanks look like once you've got the paint on them and the caps are fitted. See, I can unscrew these caps quite neatly in a moment, and they've got little rubber washers inside there which should be stuck in the top, but you can see in there there's the soldering. It's come out very neatly. Perfectly happy with that. As I said, it's left-handed, trying to do this. There's two brass caps on the left-hand tank and one brass cap on the right-hand tank, as you can see there. And if I take this little screw out of here, it's easier when I've got two hands and not a camera in my hand. Pop that down there. We can open this up, and inside I'm storing the gel battery. And what I've done is I've used a nylon strap with one of these easy release plastic buckles, and I've mounted the battery to some weld mesh which I've welded onto the frame with a little 90-degree bend down at the bottom. And my wiring, which goes off to the engine and so on, is just fed round and cable strapped and so on. So that's come out quite nice.